Hi, I'm Sneha Batra. I'm one of the managing attorneys at NPZ Law Group, and today I'm going to talk about the SB-1 returning resident visa. The COVID-19 global pandemic has resulted in green card holders being stuck outside the U.S. longer than expected, and in some cases, more than a year. Generally, green card holders must return to the U.S. within 1 year of departure to maintain their permanent resident status. Despite COVID-19 issues, travel restrictions, there is currently no change to this requirement that LPRs maintain their status. There is what's called a reentry permit, but for those of you that are already outside the U.S., this is not an option. A reentry permit is when you are remaining outside the U.S. for longer than a year, you can apply for a reentry permit with the USCIS on Form I-131, and that allows you to remain outside the U.S. for 2 years, so you don't have to travel back to the U.S. within that 1 year period. However, if you've been outside the U.S. for more than a year and don't have a reentry permit, you're going to need a new immigrant visa, and that's where the SB-1 comes into play, the returning resident visa, because you're basically saying you're coming back to resume your permanent residence. And these SB-1 visas have to be approved by the consular officer, and you have to show that extenuating circumstances existed which prevented you from coming back to the U.S. and that this was not your fault. Now, bear in mind that the consular operations are currently limited, so it might be challenging to get an interview for the SB-1. The Foreign Affairs Manual establishes a criteria for the SB-1 visa. Basically, you have to show that you are returning to your unrelinquished U.S. residence, that the extended stay outside the U.S. was for reasons beyond your control, and that you are not responsible for the reasons to stay outside the U.S. 2 consular officers have to sign off on the approval for the SB-1, which makes it, a little bit difficult to obtain. And it is discretionary. Sometimes consular officers, if you have been outside the U.S., beyond 2 years, it's an automatic denial. In other consular posts, that automatic denial is when you've been outside for maybe 4 or 5 years. But generally, the consular officers, they want to see that the departure from the U.S. was sudden and abrupt, and that the applicant has evidence of attempts to come back to the U.S., and that you're maintaining ties with the U.S. And this could include the following. For example, a round-trip ticket that had to be changed due to unforeseen circumstances, continued employment in the U.S., filing tax returns, maintaining your property and physical residence in the U.S. They're going to also look at evidence of your abandonment of permanent residence. And those types of things that they're looking for here are, did you have previous extended or frequent absences from the U.S., even before this last long departure? Did you purchase a one-way ticket from the U.S.? Did you dispose of property or businesses, wind down your affairs before you left the U.S.? And also they're going to look at your strong ties of your family, your businesses, ties abroad. Did you also neglect to file your U.S. tax return? And lastly, they're going to look at your conduct while you're outside the U.S. Are you working outside the U.S. currently? Have you started a family? Are you running for office? Are you voting in foreign elections? This is all, evidence to the consular officer that you intended to abandon your LPR status. So this is very case specific, and we have to evaluate all of the circumstances that prevented the individual from returning to the U.S. And what they're going to look at is, once again, what was the main reason that you were stuck outside the U.S. And so this is very document heavy, And you make this application on Form DS-117 with the consular officer. There is an interview, and the consular officer will determine whether or not you in fact intended to abandon your residence. And if they approve the case, then you're able to return to the US and maintain your residence. So that's it on the SB-1 returning resident visa topic, and hope you join us next time. Thank you.